Martin Lewis now, our money-saving expert, to answer some financial dilemmas. Morning, Martin.
Morning. Before we get into the phone-in, you've got a quick tip for parents who may be paying for childcare or summer camps over the summer, Martin?
Yeah, I didn't know you were doing a phone-in on it later, so it's actually perfect timing. It's good coincidence. Yeah, look, there's a scheme called tax-free childcare, which has nothing to do with tax and isn't tax-free. It's terribly named, awfully confusing, and puts people off. But there are 1.3 million people eligible for it, and only 500,000 claim it. Over 800,000 that are eligible and don't claim, and it can be really substantial money. I would actually rename it, and I'm campaigning to do so, something more like Help to Pay for Childcare, which is a better description. Now, the reason it's important right now is while you can use it for nursery care and childminders throughout the year, if you're going to send your kids over summer to, say, could even be a football camp or a drama camp or a summer camp, as long as it is Ofsted or early years register or childcare register regulated, so regulated by one of those type of regulators, then you can use the tax-free childcare scheme. Now, the way it works, it's for those who are under 11. In fact, as long as it stops the September after your 11th birthday. If you're paying for childcare and you're not on universal credit or tax credits, where you should be getting childcare help that way, then you, for every 80p you save in it, 20p is added. So if you save 80 quid, £20 is added. If you save £800, £200 is added, up to a maximum gain of £2,000 of money from the state each year. And then you use that to pay for childcare. So if you were going to pay 800 quid's worth of childcare costs this summer, well, it would only cost you just over £600 if you use the tax-free childcare scheme. Good. Not everybody can use it. You have to be working. So if you're a couple, both of you have to be working, earning at least national minimum wage equivalent for 16 hours a week, and earning neither of you can earn over £100,000. If you're a single parent, then you have to be working and you can't earn over £100,000, and you have to be earning 16 hours of national minimum wage equivalent a week. So look, lots of I's to dot and T's to cross, but it's actually, if you're eligible, it's a really simple scheme. Yeah. It's free money towards childcare. It works in the summer. It's called, stupidly, I want it to be changed, but it's called tax-free childcare. Go look it up.
Brilliant.
Check out if you're eligible.
OK, thank you for that.
Money.
Let's start with this one from Rini then. Rini's asking whether businesses can force her to pay by card instead of using cash. She said, a lot of places are now forcing me to use my card only. I hate using my card. I'd much rather use cash. Can they force me to do that? Or do I always have the right to use cash if I'd like to?
No, you do not have the right to use cash when you'd like to. There's a common confusion here about what legal tender is. People often talk about, hold on, cash is legal tender. It is, but people don't know what legal tender means. Legal tender literally means if you had a court-awarded debt against you and you tried to settle it, they cannot refuse to let you settle the court-awarded debt in legal tender. So actually, only Bank of England banknotes and some coins up to certain denominations are legal tender in the UK. But that's irrelevant. There's lots of legal currencies. However, as long as it is not discriminating against you individually for a protected characteristic, such as your sexuality or race or something, then a shop can decide how it wants to accept payment. And if they say only cards, or equally, they say only cash, they are within their rights to do so. And I'm afraid the only choice you have is to take your custom elsewhere if you don't want to do that. I'm not defending it. I'm involved in the campaign for cash. I think many older people still need to use cash and struggle with forms of digital payments, and we need it for another 20 to 30 years. But if you're asking me, can a shop say card only, is that legal? Yes, it is legal.
OK, thank you. This next one is from Becky. She says, the fixed term on my mortgage ends this December. I've been saving for the last couple of years and have a good chunk that I could use to make a lump sum overpayment, about £20,000. Even if I keep some back for emergencies, am I better off overpaying or keeping it all in savings? My loan to value is about 64%.
There's a lot in there.
There is.
So the first thing to say is what really matters is your rate. What will the rate that you get of the new mortgage once your fixed rate ends be? The standard rule here is if your mortgage rate is higher than the rate you can earn after tax in savings, you're better off to overpay the mortgage. If the savings rate is higher than the mortgage rate, you're better off to save. Now, currently, you're probably on a cheap fixed rate. You're almost certainly better off saving, which is what you have been doing. Well done. But it's likely the mortgage rate is going to jump once your fixed rate ends, in which case overpaying the mortgage or taking out smaller borrowing because you don't get that mortgage in the first place because you use some of the cash is a good idea. You're right that you should keep a cash emergency fund back. If you did have overpayment penalties on the mortgage, which you wouldn't because you're getting a new mortgage, you want to watch out for those too. The only other thing to look for here is mortgages get cheaper as your loan to value decreases. Loan to value is how much of your house's value you're borrowing. The more you're borrowing tends to be the higher mortgage rate. And it decreases roughly every 10% down to 60%. You're at 64%.
Yeah.
If those savings would reduce your loan to value down to 60%, that might also actually, marginally, but could improve the mortgage deal that you can get. So that's another factor in here. My guess would be with the rate that fixes are at the moment and the rate that savings are at the moment, it would be best to use some of the cash to reduce the mortgage.
Okay.
Compared to savings.
Yeah, great.
Susan's asking a question about EHIC cards. We did talk about this last week, didn't we? EHIC and GHIC. But she's saying, since taking out my annual travel insurance, I've been told I need my appendix out. I've been waiting 6 months so far for surgery, but now I'm desperate to go on holiday. If my appendix flares up whilst I'm away in Spain, would my EHIC card cover me? She has other medical problems, all of which she has declared on her insurance.
Well, as long as your insurance will cover you for other things. If you have an emergency while you're abroad in a European Union country, what the EHIC card does is or the GHIC, they're the same, European Health Insurance Card, which is totally free. You should never pay for it. It means you get treatment in a state-run EU hospital or GPs at the same cost as a local. So if it's free for a local, it would be free for you. Now, if you deliberately did health tourism to go abroad to have treatment, you would be excluded. But if you had an emergency while you were abroad, even on a pre-existing condition, the EHIC would cover you. So you should be fine. And EHIC is not an alternative to travel insurance. You should have both. But as long as you've got travel insurance for all the other things, if it were excluding you from an emergency appendicitis because it's a pre-existing condition, then you should generally be covered for that in a state-run hospital. And you need to make sure there are state-run hospitals near where you're going if something happened to your appendix while you're away.
Brilliant. Martin, thank you. We're out of time,
Just a
unfortunately.
reminder, 4.3 million EHIC cards are dating this year. Go check the validity date on your EHIC. If it is dating, go to the NHS website to renew it. Don't Google it because there's often sites trying to charge you when you shouldn't charge. Everybody, if you're going to the European Union, check the valid date on your EHIC card.
And the tax-free childcare, where can they find out about that? Because that's a brilliant tip.
It's on gov.uk. Gov.uk, tax-free childcare, and there's websites that'll explain it to you. Do some reading.
Brilliant. Martin, thank you for joining us. Great to speak to you as ever. Oh, hello. Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload tons of new content every single day. So hit the subscribe button, like all the videos, and don't miss out. We'll see you in the morning.